I'm Paul Gemmill. I'm chair of the Research Council's UK Research Outputs Group, and that's the group that seeks to promote open access across all of the research councils. RCUK's position on open access is very much in support of open access. There's a formal policy promoting open access across all of the research councils. In addition to that, every research council, be it the Arts and Humanities Research Council or the Science and Technology Facilities Council and everything in between, has its own specific policy, recognising, of course, that for some sectors, different aspects need to apply for their particular area of science and research. All of the research councils are working towards the same overall aims in terms of deposit, in terms of time scales, etc., etc. And that's within the context of Research Councils UK agreeing a year ago to work towards, as much as is possible, and obviously we have to consider funding and so on within that context, as much as possible towards gold open access, by which I mean publication directly into an open access journal upon the release of the research paper and so on. Now, as I say, at the moment we're working towards that, and what we have instead are a number of different policies across the councils, but working towards that similar target. There are actually a considerable number of similarities across different areas of research. So if one looks at the biomedical sphere, for example, so that's the Biotechnology and Biological Sciences Research Council, the Medical Research Council, they fund, along with Wellcome Trust, Cancer Research UK and other significant funders in that sector, the UK PubMed Central. That is a depository into which all researchers funded by those research councils are duty bound to deposit articles after publication, and certainly within 6 months of publication. Uptake still has not been as high as we'd like, but that's one of the areas that there's a great deal of work going on. If one looks at ESRC, the Economic and Social Sciences Research Council, one finds that they too are taking a very similar approach in two areas. They have Society Today, where again there is mandatory deposit required for articles post-publication, and they also run their data service to ensure that data generated from their research is also made available as quickly as possible and in a form that's readable and usable by others. Again, representing the desire of that council, as with all research councils, to make their research and the products of their research accessible to all. The research councils support open access, particularly in terms of repositories, in terms of funding through grant applications. So it's very simple for researchers. It's just something they can put in within the costs of their grant application, and then it'll be funded. And what you see, therefore, is a number of institutions, such as, say, University College London, developing high-level repositories into which their researchers are able, and I know do, place their materials. And that's great, because that's making it accessible, it's making it accessible quickly and in a way in which other people can use. In addition, what the research councils promote, and again it depends on the particular subject areas, are subject-based repositories. So to choose a couple of examples, the Natural Environment Research Council has a number of repositories, particularly for data, which it funds and supports, which are its data centres, and the Medical Research Council, along with the Biotechnology and Biological Sciences Research Council, funds and promotes, and in fact mandates, the use of UK PubMed Central, a repository which has now got nearly 2 million full-text research articles deposited within it, plus around about 20 million research abstracts. So a great source of research knowledge in the biomedical field. What is beginning to happen is that we're seeing that for some researchers they're looking to go down that gold open access route, so publication immediately into an open access journal. And for that, the research councils are looking currently at what are the best ways in terms of promoting gold open access and what funding mechanisms are going to be the best. Of course, to do that, the research councils can't do that alone. We need to work with institutions, we need to work with the research community and the publishing community, because without that partnership of all of those players, and indeed other funders such as Wellcome Trust, Cancer Research UK, without all of those players involved and agreeing a way forward, we won't be able to achieve what we're looking for. what a number of organisations are doing, Research Councils UK, University UK, hopefully publishers and so on, are forming a group to take forward open access implementation across the UK. And indeed that group we're hoping will meet for the first time on the 20th of October. So obviously something we're taking forward actively now, because clearly if each of us seeks to take this forward on our own, we're probably not going to manage it. So by working together, we believe we've got a much better opportunity of achieving what we want. What we're looking for in terms of working together is moving forward in a way that takes account of publishers' concerns, because clearly they've got concerns about their business model, whilst at the same time reflecting the increasing desire across the academic research community and indeed the funding community to ensure that the outputs from that research are available as widely and as quickly as possible, and in a way that is as accessible as possible. Because again, clearly if it's not easily accessible because of technical issues, then we're not really going to get where we want to in terms of promoting access to research outputs. What the Research Councils UK are finding in terms of the researchers' response to promoting access and so on and so forth is that take-up has been slow. However, it is undoubtedly going in the right direction. A good example of that is the number of articles now being deposited in UK PubMed Central, which is now in the millions and growing literally minute by minute. And in addition to that, individual research councils are making efforts to improve the level of deposit. So, for example, the ESRC, the Economic Social Science Research Council, has worked closely with the White Rose Consortium. That's the consortium of universities in Yorkshire, to help them, as a pilot, deposit more. And that, again, has had a positive effect. So there's a number of different activities taking place across a number of different sectors, which are helping to promote the rate of deposit and the level of deposit, because, again, that's what we're all seeking to work towards. The sorts of things at the moment that seem to be helping the rate of deposit are where it's possible for research councils or other organisations such as Jisc and so on to work with specific areas of the academic community. So, for example, Jisc, working with Sherpa, one of the other groups involved in this area, have been out and are going out currently to a number of different universities and groupings of universities to work more directly with them to explain how you can do this, that it's not difficult, and again to promote the activities around access. The issue of copyright and what rights researchers retain, and how, if there is commercial value in their research, they ensure that they retain the intellectual property rights, the IPR, is a key issue, and it's one that, with the financial pressures that we all face, is becoming more important. In terms of that, there's a number of activities underway. So, for example, Research Councils UK, Universities UK and other organisations are working with the Information Commissioner to help clarify what is covered by freedom of information, because there are concerns certainly within the academic community that freedom of information requests could lead to data being released prior to actually it being completed and fully used, and thus potentially misunderstood or exploited by others. So there's a lot of activities like that underway. In addition, Research Councils UK has, particularly through its individual member councils, a number of policies either in development or having been developed around intellectual property and around exploitation, and we are working very closely with the research community on those things. Often, when we consider open access, the discussion is about journals and so on and so forth. And of course, particularly now with the developments in various areas of research, it's as much about data, or if not more about data. And in terms of that, what RCUK is doing through the Research Outputs Group is looking at ensuring that there is a shared policy around data sharing and data management to build on the individual policies that research councils have. So, taking a number of research councils as examples, ESRC, ensures that all data generated from its research is deposited in its own repository. The Natural Environment Research Council has a similar approach in terms of the areas of science which it funds. And BBSRC takes an approach which has actually been lauded by Nature in terms of providing funding to enable researchers to develop the tools to maintain and safely manage their data post-research. Because one of the issues with data often is that it's not something that is considered as part of the original funding application. So the data is created and then it's actually very difficult for researchers to pay for and ensure that that data is made available and, most important of all, curated in such a way that that the accessibility to it is maintained. Thinking about where open access may go over the next year or so, there's a number of points we can make. The new government has made it clear that it is very supportive of the concept of, so to speak, making public data public, by which I mean ensuring that those outputs of research that are publicly funded should be more widely available. At the same time, there are clear additional pressures that I'm sure will increase to ensure that in terms of data and research, we in the UK don't release either of those things in a way that could mean we don't exploit them to our UK economic advantage. So there's some pressures there which potentially are in conflict. But what that means is that we're going to have to do more work looking at how we protect the data and research that we need to protect, whilst ensuring where we can that it is made more widely available. What is undoubtedly the case is that the move towards increased open access will continue. It's already clear that those research articles that get placed in open access journals get as many citations, if not more citations now, than those published through what might be called the traditional model. And there's nothing to suggest that that trend is going to change. So to conclude, from a Research Council's UK perspective, I'm sure the move towards open access will continue. It will continue, of course, in the context of funding scenarios which clearly are going to be tighter than they have been in the past, and that will be one of the things that will determine at what rate of speed we achieve our longer term aims around open access. From the perspective of the Biotechnology and Biological Sciences Research Council, my research council, there's a very good recent example of the benefits of making material data available rapidly. So we have funded a consortium of researchers doing work around the wheat genome, and they recently published aspects of that wheat genome sequence. And as a result, what we're finding is the server where the data is being held is almost collapsing under the demands for downloads of that data. And that's because globally people want to work with those researchers now. So what we're finding, by making that data available, making it available quickly, we're getting more collaborations, international collaborators. We're positioning the UK as one of the leaders in that area of research, and thus benefiting obviously the UK academic world, which is incredibly important, and ensuring that UK has a leadership position in an area which economically could be of great value in the future.